My project on the sinking of the USS Indianapolis relates to the 2014 National History Day theme, Rights and Responsibilities in History, because the rights of lives of U.S. sailors were lost at sea on July 30th, 1945, with the sinking of the USS Indianapolis in the Pacific Ocean. The U.S. government both failed in its responsibility in protecting its sailors, as well as Captain McVeigh from the attacks of blame given to him for the sinking of the ship. Little info was released about the sinking until 2006, causing many to question who was at fault, who was responsible, and why additional information was not released earlier. Many questions are still answered today. The USS Indianapolis was one of the most important and forgotten ships in World War II. The ship was constructed in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania's Naval Yard and launched on November 7, 1931. The USS Indianapolis was the second ship built as a treaty ship. The Indianapolis was transferred to the Pacific Fleet at Mare Island Naval Yard, California. The Indianapolis and the fleet trained for war because tensions between America and Japan were getting tense. The Pacific Fleet was moved from California to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. When the Imperial Japanese launched their surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, this sunk most of the battleships at Pearl Harbor. Luckily, the Indianapolis was at Johnson Atoll Island, which is just west of the Hawaii Islands, target practicing. The Pearl Harbor attack sent America into World War II, but unfortunately with a limited Pacific fleet. From there, the ship was in many battles, to taking out airplanes to providing support to men on land. In one battle, a torpedo exploded about 15 feet away from the Indianapolis, causing hull damage. Captain McVeigh, the captain of the ship at this time, booked it all the way back to Mare Island, California. Captain McVeigh became captain of the Indianapolis in November 1944. Being born and raised in Effort, Pennsylvania, he first joined the Navy after graduating the U.S. Naval Academy. When the ship was ported for repairs, most of the men got off the ship and went to have a good time while they were on land for the first time in a while. While the Indianapolis was being repaired, the U.S. military chose the ship for a top-secret mission. When Captain McVeigh was told about the top-secret mission, he did not ask anything else of it. He was only told what to do and where to go. Captain McVeigh set sail with the ship and the crew to Hunters Point Shipyard. While at Hunters Point Shipyard, they picked up the special cargo. It turns out that the special cargo was 132 pounds of uranium-235 and a firing assembly for an atomic bomb. The uranium was stored in the Admiral's cabin on the Indianapolis, and it was guarded by two scientists who posed as Army captains. They told no one about what was put on the ship. Before Captain McVeigh and his crew left, someone told him two things. Those things were to get to Titan Island as fast as possible, and if the ship was to sink for any possible reason, and there is one lifeboat left, the cargo gets it. Titan Island is just located south of Japan's coast. McVeigh then left Hunters Point Naval Yard, heading straight for Titan Island at 15 knots. They reached Hawaii on July 19, 1945 for a quick refuel, and then set off again. When they reached Titan Island, they dropped the cargo off at Titan Airfield. The uranium was used for either Little Boy or Fat Man, which were the nicknames of the two secret atomic bombs designated to be dropped on the Japanese mainland. Even to this day, we do not know which bomb received the special cargo. McVeigh and the crew sailed to Guam's shipyard for fuel, food, and other equipment. After a few days of staying at Guam, McVeigh asked for an escort to Leyte Gulf for target practice. With the escort denied because ships were limited at the end of the war, McVeigh decided to leave to Leyte Gulf without an escort. On July 30th, 1945, when about halfway between Guam and Leyte Gulf, the ship was intercepted by two torpedoes. Mahashrisha Harashimoto, captain of I-58, which is a submarine, had sent the torpedoes at the Indianapolis. He fired at least 6 torpedoes at the ship around midnight. With the Indianapolis being about 2,000 meters away from the submarine, 2 torpedoes hit at 12:02 a.m., taking out turret number 1 and blew off some of the bow in the process. The second one hit just under the bridge and took out almost all of the electrical and communication systems. When the torpedoes hit, McVeigh told the nearest man to go to the first radio room and send an SOS out. He came running back and reported that the first radio room has no power. At this point, the ship was sinking rapidly and made a 180-degree turn. The ship's front tip was pointing back towards Guam. McVeigh then told the man to go to the second radio room and try from there because it was on a backup generator. By then, the ship was almost all the way underwater. When McVeigh was rescued on August 8, 1945, he was court-martialed. The government only provided 2 reasons why. One being not using the USN common practice zigzagging. Zigzagging is when the ship travels in a Z in the water to avoid torpedoes fired. The other was failing to call for abandoned ship to save more lives. McVeigh had violated the safety rights of sailors by failing to call abandoned ship. He also violated his responsibilities by not performing zigzagging.
Was probably unfair to Captain McVeigh. Just from the things that I've seen in the past and listening to the survivors, I feel like they were really in support of Captain McVeigh and thought that he handled the situation the best that he could.
Out of several cases like this one, Captain McVeigh was the only one that was court-martialed. The government also violated their rights to keep Captain McVeigh safe from harmful letters and saying that it was Captain McVeigh's fault. By not protecting McVeigh from all the hate mail, it caused McVeigh to commit suicide. They also violated their responsibility to keep sailors safe because when they told McVeigh to give the cargo the only lifeboat available if the ship sunk, when the government told him that, it was like saying that every man on board was less important than the so-called special cargo. When the Indianapolis was hit by 2 torpedoes, it opened an oil container. As the ship was pouring oil out into the ocean, men still jumping off the ship were getting covered in oil as they swam away. At 12:19 a.m., the ship was completely underwater. It only took 12 minutes for the entire ship to sink. If you died on the ship, you were lucky. If you were still alive, it was like living through hell, said several survivors. When the sun rose, someone took command and told everyone to put all injured into available rafts. Several groups of men were spread out in different directions from the ship. On board the ship, it had 1,269 men and officers on board. That night, about 900 of those men made it to the water. The morning was worse than the night. It would reach about 100 degrees every day in the ocean. Moreover, sharks began attacking the men left and right. The men on the water were dehydrated and tired of swimming. Most of the men gave up because they saw no hope. Adrian Marks was flying his PBY-5A on August 5, 1945. He was flying lower than usual and looked down into the ocean and saw men in the water. He landed it in the water and fit as many men in his plane as much as he could. He then flew back to Guam. It took 3 days for the nearest ship to come out and pick up the remaining survivors. When they were picked up on August 8, 1945, when aboard, they soon learned that one atomic bomb was dropped. The bomb was Little Boy, and Fat Man was scheduled to be dropped on August 9, 1945. When every man alive in the water was picked up, they counted 319 men. Though they had third-degree burns, missing limbs, broken bones, etc. On November 6, 1968, times took a turn for the worse when Captain McVeigh committed suicide at his home in Litchfield, Connecticut.
You know, the 10, 12-foot swells or so. Look, there's some debris out there. That looks like an old crate. And so finally it's I said, I'm going to go get it. And they said, yeah, a shark maybe will get you too. Well, we haven't seen any around in the last few hours. So something says, go and see. And so I dog paddle and I get out closer and closer to that crate. And when I got closer to it, I could see those potatoes in it. And, you know, I didn't pause. Thank you, Lord, for what I'm about to partake of. But in desperation to reach in and get that first potato, and then that rot squeezed between my fingers. And then I thought, rotten potatoes. You ladies know what rotten potatoes smell like. I know what they taste like. And to take that potato and peel it somewhat with your hand, then peel it with your teeth, but you don't spit out all the rot. And you have a little bit of nourishment, a little bit of water, a little bit of food. And then I began to think that I may be out here another day. I squeezed off several potatoes and put them in my pocket.
Scott, a 7th grade teen who did something that no one thought he could do. He did his National History Day topic on the USS Indianapolis. He went and interviewed all the men still alive on the ship because information was limited during the time. Being disqualified on the state level, he was very sad. But on May 1977, Hunter Scott took McVeigh's court-martial all the way to Supreme Court. As always, it took a long time to get everyone on his side. On October 2006, he was able to get the court-martial reversed. Even to this day, people wonder what secrets that still remain about the men lost at sea.